Hello and welcome to Sass Bites. This is your weekly bite of Sass during your lunch break. I'm your host, Micah Godbolt, and we are continuing down part 10 of our road to SassConf. SassConf is in its third year. It's a 3 days of conference, 1 day of workshops, conference in Austin, Texas from November 11th through November 14th of all things Sass, front end, and all sorts of other topics I'm sure they're going to get into. It's a great conference. You can still buy tickets now. They're $500, which is a great deal for this size of a conference and with the quality of speakers as well. So what we've been doing for the last 9 weeks is going through and talking with the various speakers. They're going to be there giving workshops, giving lightning talks, hosting panels, and all those types of things, giving you a chance to get to know them, to introduce what their talk is, to give you an idea of what talk you might actually want to go to. So if you don't have your ticket yet, go to SassConf.com, grab that ticket. There's still some left. Get down to Austin. It's not roaring hot down there in November, so it's a good time to be down there. Today we have 2 more guests. Again, another speaker and then someone that's going to be doing a small workshop. The first guest is Chris, and I totally don't have last names on here. You have to tell me eventually. Chris, what's your last name?
It's Sauvé.
Chris Sauvé, awesome. He is a front-end developer at Shopify, not to be confused with Spotify. This is the Ottawa, Canada company. He's an avid Sass and JavaScript user. He likes giving talks on Flexbox and React. Outside work, he usually plays tennis, teaches kids to play squash, and watches TV with his cats. I mean, no, cats, wife, and dogs. That sounds like a party. That's like a good time. Apparently the kids don't get to watch TV. Is that what you're trying to say?
So, none of those. The dog's enough of a handful.
Yeah, exactly. There's no more room on the couch. So next to him, Tim Hetler is a senior software engineer at RGA in New York. He's actually spoken previously at SassConf and CSSDevConf, as well as hosted an Intro to HTML and CSS workshop at the School of Visual Arts. When he's not coding, he likes to ride his bike, do bird watching, bake pies. How you do that all at one time, I really, really want to know. Like, there's got to be this cool contraption where you pedal and it creates heat, and then you make like a bird pie or a...
Yeah, and then it makes sounds to attract the birds. Yeah, I'm working on it.
Very nice. I like it. Is it? I was trying for it. Isn't there some pie that actually has the name of a bird in it or something, like a bird reference?
Well, there's an old nursery rhyme about like an old lady who makes a pie out of birds.
I think that's what it is.
I think maybe that's what you're thinking of, like a blackbird pie.
Blackbird, there we go. Yeah, or blackbird pie. I'll stick with that. Sure.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you both coming on the show today. Let's go ahead and dive right on in because we don't have any other craziness to do. Let's talk with Chris real quick. What I'd love to do is get the history of these speakers and where they came into tech, especially where they came into Sass. So what's your coming of age Sass story?
Yeah, so listening to the other Sass Bites podcasts, I think that I have a kind of similarly weird background to a lot of the folks who've been on. I was an accountant, so that was what I went to school for, and I spent a couple years in accounting firms. And one thing you do a lot as an accountant is do really repetitive, annoying work. So eventually, I decided I was going to find a way to automate all of that, so I started to learn AppleScript. That was my first language, which for anyone who's used AppleScript is actually it's a tremendously bad language to start learning, but decided to go with it to begin anyway. And then I did a couple things that I really liked, so I wanted to share them with people. So I realized I probably needed to make a website to share those. So I started learning some JavaScript, some HTML, and some CSS. And since I was kind of more developer-oriented, when I started writing CSS, I pretty much instantly wanted a little bit more, some variables, some functions, mixins, some of the fancy stuff. And that brought me pretty quickly to Sass. It had a huge community around it, a really great community now that I've been in it for a little while. Tons of great tools, tons of great blog posts and stuff like that. So it was a no-brainer for me to start using that. And then working at Shopify, we use Sass really heavily since we're a Ruby shop. And yeah, just gone from there and used it pretty much any chance I can get.
Awesome. What do you think? What's the biggest thing that you get out of Sass that like changes the way you're able to work?
I think modularity is the huge piece. I think other folks have mentioned that. Not just being able to split out components into different files, but kind of related to my talk, being able to kind of have central utilities that you can then draw on in a bunch of different components, and that enables you to be consistent in coloring and spacing and stuff like that, which to me is really important. So that's the big thing that attracted me to Sass.
Awesome, definitely. Now, my curiosity for this next question is, what in the world is the difference between tennis and squash, and why would you play both of them?
It's actually pretty challenging. They seem similar. I mean, you've got a racket in your hand for both of them. Tennis is actually, I find, infuriating because there's nothing to like stop the ball from going way too long or way too short or anything like that. So it's kind of an exercise in being well balanced and not hitting too hard or too soft. Squash is really different. Squash is like rock and roll. You're just constantly hitting the ball, running all over the place. So it gets you at two different kind of sides of the game, and it just keeps me healthy. That's what's important, I guess.
Nice. Are there anything else you do outside of work that kind of keeps you going?
I like contributing to some open source stuff. I'm kind of a serial project starter and not finisher, so I have a ton of like 85% done projects that maybe I'll get to one day, but they keep my brain going, keep me learning new things, which is really important. And then just taking care of the pets, and I'm still pretty fresh out of school, so getting to experience lots of things with my big boy job and stuff. So
nice. Well, Shopify is definitely a good place to do it. I know you're in good hands over there. So let's talk about this. You've got a lightning talk to me talking about with Sass projects and central utilities. Like what is a central utility? Why in the world would we need them for a project?
Yeah, so the first thing that I think a lot of people start using right away when they get to Sass is variables. I think that's like a pretty clear starting point, maybe that and nesting. The problem that comes up with variables is that like CSS, even for Sass, it has just this global scope, right? So you declare your variables. For the most part, they're just getting tossed into one big bucket. And that's maybe not so bad on a smaller project for a smaller team. But as soon as you have a bunch of people contributing, which we do at Shopify, we have a ton of people contributing to our code base, it starts to become really hard to maintain if you have variables declared kind of all over the place, different spacing being set, different colors, different values for common properties like borders. So to me, a central utility is finding a way of encapsulating kind of one part of your application styling into a single place that then components, which are like the main building blocks for the application, can draw on and get any of those kind of central styling concerns included in them automatically. So colors is the obvious one. You like centralize all of your colors in some way, and then every component that needs a color can just reference the central colors. My personal feelings on it come from mostly like a JavaScript background where you don't want a ton of globals. So the ideas I'm going to be presenting in my talk are ways to kind of get around having tons of globals and kind of decreasing the footprint of your style sheet. So the API that someone has to learn when they want to come in and add some styles is limited to only a few functions or a few common mix-ins rather than having hundreds of variables to understand.
Excellent. And you're going to fit that all in a 15-minute lightning talk. See?
Well, we're going to give it a go.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to hearing a lot more of that. Let's jump over to Tim. Tim, what's your story? How do you get in development? Are you an accountant as well? You kind of look like an accountant, actually.
I kind of look like an accountant. I will try not to take offense to that. But no, actually, I kind of have a pretty standard story. Or like, I went to school at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology. I went for information technology back in 2001. It was one of the first schools to really offer something that was close to a web development major. So I took that. I had to take like a bunch of like sort of survey classes and all like the traditional programming stuff. The Java was just like way over my head, and I didn't really like that. So, but then I got into the web development classes, and I kind of had a bit of an artistic background. my mother was an art teacher, and I'd always been interested in art. So kind of the marriage between programming and visual design that you get with front-end development really kind of attracted me to that. So then I graduated from school. I got a job. I was at about.com for a long time, and I redesigned their website from a table layout to a CSS float-based one. And actually, I remember the first time I came in, I heard about Sass was we hired a guy, and he wanted to just nuke our website and just build it from the ground up. And he was like, "Oh, this thing's Sass. You gotta it's like CSS, but it's got variables and loops." And I was just kind of like, "Posh, we don't need that stuff," because it was like me and him and one other guy, and we were like, "Well, I don't understand what you can't do with CSS that you would want to do." And so he quit. He couldn't handle the environment there, and he quit very quickly, and we continued doing our thing. And then I moved on from about.com to RGA. And I was working on a major redesign for an e-commerce site, and so this is when you work at an agency, the scale of things is so large that you're not only working with big teams, but you might be working with a company that has multiple agencies that do work for them. So it's not even you have a large team on the e-commerce site, but you yourself, your agency has a large team, and then there's 5 other agencies that are also doing work for them. So the amount of cooks in the kitchen is outrageous. And so we decided we needed a preprocessor. We were doing a major redesign, so it was a good chance to start from scratch. And so obviously we looked in and we did our research and we decided what we thought the best one would be, so we chose less. And so we did less for a little bit, and then what kind of broke the straw that broke the camel's back with less, which is it's a fine preprocessor. If people want to use less, that's fine. I don't want to be too harsh on less, but
we don't judge around here.
Yeah. So so we had the style guide, and I was trying to automatically do blend modes basically, which is now something you can just do with CSS. But at the time, it was kind of unthinkable to do with CSS, and even doing it with less was very difficult. The design choices they made where you don't really have mix-ins, you have guarded, so you have these things called guarded functions is the closest you can kind of get to what you want to do with functions and mix-ins in Sass. And so I wrote this script to do blend modes in less, and it was very complicated and very long. And then so halfway through that project we're well, maybe we should check out Sass, and it was just way easier to do everything we wanted to do. And so we switched over to that, and I've kind of been hooked ever since. I love the idea of, as Chris was saying, modularization with a team, with a large team. Just one giant styles.css doesn't really work too well when you're, doing version control. It just gets out of hand really fast. And especially on an e-commerce site, we built a style guide. It was kind of a style guide-driven development where everything was built out as a module first, and then so that style guide was the single source of truth. And so then we built a mix-in that would create that button or that drop-down, and so we did the website, and then we handed them this big framework that was just full of mix-ins and functions that could recreate anything they wanted on the website, and was flexible enough so that as their palettes changed with new seasons that come out, they could update their buttons with a single line of code. And actually, my first SassConf talk was kind of all about this process. It was a 30-minute talk all about one button, and the journey that me learning Sass and learning the power of Sass and what it can bring to a large team. And so now I use Sass day to day. It's really kind of the go-to. Fortunately, we work mostly with clients who are here for our expertise, so we can kind of dictate what kind of stuff we use. So I'm really into front-end build systems. I was using Grunt for a while, and now I'm doing Gulp, and they both have their pros and cons. And so, Sass, and I've been using Node Sass completely. Now I don't use Ruby Sass or Compass anymore. I think that Node Sass is kind of getting to where I need it. It's got everything that you want, and it's much faster especially when you're looking with large code bases. It compiles much faster. So yeah, that's my story with Sass.
Awesome. So I definitely want to hear about these pies. What's the best pie that you make?
Well, I'm kind of a traditionalist. I usually I got into cooking and baking because with web design, sometimes you can kind of feel like, you don't like actually do anything. You get done with a day and you worked very hard, but you're like kind of don't have much to show for it. And it's hard to like, especially in the agency world where sometimes you can't really take credit for all the work that you did. It's hard to like point to that thing and like I did that thing and it was like awesome. And so sometimes after a hard day, I like to go home and then I can build a pie in like an hour or two, and then so I have like all these ingredients. I'm like, that used to be flour and water and eggs, and now it's a thing I can eat and it's delicious. And so it's just very satisfying. But mostly, like right now I'm doing apple pies, and I'll switch over to pumpkin pies pretty soon. And honestly, my favorite is a peach and blueberry pie in the middle of summer. You really can't beat that.
Wow,
So,
can't go wrong.
yeah.
Cool. Well, talk to us about your workshop. You're going to be spending 3 hours out sharing code and contributing to open source.
Right. So
3 hours.
Yeah, it's a lot. 3 hours is a lot of time, and the idea is that I want people to come in who are already familiar with Sass. It's definitely not like this is a variable sort of thing. So it's the idea is that people who've already done Sass for a while and who have kind of like built up a everyone kind of has like a Mixin library that they carry around with them from like project to project. And I want to empower and inspire people to take the small extra step to make changes in your code to to abstract them a little bit so that instead of doing one thing, they can do like something a little more general and put that stuff up on GitHub, write documentation for it, write tests. It's not that scary. I thought it was scary, and I didn't do that stuff for a long time, but then I've walked through it, and it's once you sort of get like a boilerplate and like a workflow for it, it's really it's not that hard to share your code, and it helps out the community. The more code that's being shared, the more people see how great Sass is, and the more people can like search and find like problems that they're having, and spend less time banging their head against the wall and like finding solutions. And then when you share it on GitHub, like there's an opportunity to build on top of each other too. And so I don't have like any mega repos that have thousands of stars, but I have a few of my own repos, that collectively have a couple dozen stars. And whenever I work on a project and I find a bug in code, I always submit a pull request, and if something doesn't do exactly what I want it to do, and I extend a repo, and so the idea is like to give back, and like together we can all do small changes to make Sass better.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great topic, especially for Sass and open source, to be able to kind of walk through how that process works.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Sass gives us, one of the benefits over CSS is that we can, with mixins, we can sort of modularize things, and so it's not just like going on Stack Overflow and copy pasting like some solution to how you do something. Now we can package them up and then install them directly from GitHub or through Bower or through npm or whatever package manager is cool next week.
Which I'm sure will be different.
Yeah.
So now Tim, you've been to Austin before, but Chris, you have not. Chris, then, what are you looking forward to in Austin? First time in the town, what's that thing you got to do when you get there?
It's tough. When you live in Canada, you just kind of want warmth sometimes. So just kind of like, it's already getting pretty cold here, so I'm looking forward to like, can I wear shorts when I'm there?
I think it's allowed.
Well, like,
yeah, I'll be warm
will it be viable? Okay, cool. So yeah, I'll
for
bring some shorts.
It's definitely going to be viable. Is it above 65? Yes, you're good.
No, I mean, I do love fried chicken. So it's the first time I've been down south, so I'm gonna try to get some, southern fried chicken. That sounds pretty good to me. And just really, honestly, meeting the community. Like, all jokes aside, I'm still pretty fresh in the industry, and the Sass community in particular is so welcoming that I'm really excited to meet a lot of folks. But yeah, it'll be nice. I hope it snows here while I'm gone, so that I can be somewhere warm while it's snowing.
Cool. And Tim, what about you? You were just there, you said, for a wedding a little while ago. What are you looking forward to getting back to? A restaurant or a place or a hike or something? What's cool out there?
Sure. Well, so I've been there a couple times. RGA actually has an office out in Austin, and I did a work vacation 2 years ago where I just went to a different place and worked in an office without, taking time off, but just to kind of get a vibe of the place. And then I was there just last week for a wedding, and it was actually unseasonably warm there. It was like 95 while we were there, which I guess the Austinites were complaining about, but my girlfriend and I just sort of spent a week going from swimming hole to swimming hole and sort of living kind of an endless summer, or at least a week longer of summer. And that was great. I mean, Austin, I didn't realize, but like you go like an hour west and you're in the hill country, and there's like really some amazing geological stuff. There's these watering holes that sort of like erupt out of the earth, and these beautiful like green verdant pools that have, and there's always like a rope swing and a waterfall, and it's really, really beautiful. The hiking there is great. So if people are coming early or staying late, they should definitely go into hill country and do some hiking, which we meant to do hiking, but we ended up just getting to these watering holes and then just staying there all day because it was so beautiful. But inside Austin proper, I still haven't been to Franklin's, which is a very famous barbecue joint. My girlfriend is vegetarian, and she kind of doesn't really enjoy the idea of sitting in line for 2 hours to get a pile of meat.
I've heard 2 hours is actually on the low side.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you go like early on a Wednesday morning or something. So maybe even that, it's a long time to wait in line. So maybe I'll go for that, get up early and have some brisket for breakfast. But New York City surprisingly doesn't have decent breakfast tacos, which is like kind of a staple in Austin. So I'm always happy to eat my weight in breakfast tacos whenever I'm down south.
I've definitely heard about the infamous tacos, so I was looking forward to that. Well, great. Thanks, both of you, for coming on the show. The talks sound awesome. Workshops, really important things for us to talk about and for the community to continue to think about and discuss. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to lots of breakfast tacos and hikes and those pools and rope swings. I hope I can find them. So thanks again for coming on the show. And thanks everyone for watching. I think we're going to have one more week, because then after that, I think it's SassConf. Hopefully some of the organizers might even stop by. I think we haven't quite solidified those plans yet, but we'll be doing it. We'll be having some fun and wrap this thing up good right before the before the big show. So thanks again for the watchers for sticking through the series. We'll get back to our regularly scheduled code snippets hopefully later. A little bit later. We'll see when we can get back to that. But it's been a lot of fun, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you later.
Thanks.
Thanks.